Hello everyone, my name is Tiffany Theen, and the purpose of this video is to explain how Access Consciousness and Being You Changing the World has totally changed my life. You see, by the time I found this book, I have created this epic pile of crap, and I was in the space that I wanted to rid the world, the monster of me. And no matter what I did, or no matter how much I tried, life just kept blowing up at me, and that's where I was at. But I was also a coward because I couldn't do it. And my friends would try to persuade me to say, oh, you don't want to do that. Your son needs you. I felt so horrible that I needed to protect my son from me. So it was throughout this cry for help that one of my friends had emailed me a copy of a chapter, an audio chapter of this gentleman's book, Dr. Heer's book, Being You Changing the World. After listening to it for about 15-20 minutes, I realized there's something here. There's something about it. His voice was soothing. He was extremely compassionate. He was talking to me not out of pity, but out as a friend who was there to help. So I immediately downloaded the rest of the book. And for an entire month, his voice was the first thing I heard when I woke up in the morning, and the last thing I heard as I fell asleep at night. It was shortly after that through Facebook, I found this person, Corey Michelle. Now, Corey Michelle runs a Facebook page called The Crazy Possible Experiment. And by listening to Dr. Heer's book and following Corey Michelle's experiments, I slowly started pulling myself out of the hole I was in. And this was in September of 2015 when I found this. And she was always talking about, ask the universe and leave everything in a question. And I remember Dr. Heer stating in his book, make a demand. So it was through her Crazy Possible Experiment and my making demands that I got frustrated one night, because we all go through those roller coasters of yay, no, yay. So through that making a demand, all my friends like MotoGP. I myself ride motorcycles. We all ride sport bike motorcycles. And if anybody knew me then, I could barely ride. I looked like Lucille Ball. I would white knuckle it, could barely go around the corners. So that's why I made this demand to the universe, because I thought, okay, Valentino Rossi, he's been practicing all his life and he got sponsored. So, all right, universe, if you really intend on making my life better, make me a sponsored MotoGP racer. Be careful what you ask for and be open to what you ask for, because within a couple weeks, an acquaintance of a friend reached out to me on Facebook and said, hey, Tiffany, don't you ride a Triumph? Yeah, I ride a Triumph. Why? Oh, you'll never believe this. The Florida State University motorsports team is looking for female riders for a track day on Halloween. Have you ever had a track day before? No, I haven't. Why? Oh, because they're only sponsoring people who've never been on the track before. Remember how Dr. Heer tells you to look for it in a way that you didn't expect and just leave everything open? Let me kind of point this out to you. I am a green rider. I could barely ride around the corner. These are Florida State University police sponsoring riders. MotoGP on a track for females the weekend of Halloween. Now, the main purpose of the program was to educate sport bike riders to keep them from racing on the streets and to keep it on the track. But being that I was a teacher and I've never had a track day, and they were trying to encourage females to go on the track, I thought, what else is possible? So me and several other people were sponsored for Halloween weekend. Now, how does it get better than that? As I was riding, I got a whole lot better. Here's me and my bike. I was all excited to go. And before I know it, by the end of the weekend, I was keeping up with the trainers and was almost as good as they were. Well, not necessarily. I still needed to work on my form. I'm still kind of white knuckling it there, but I couldn't have done that. I could have never done that. And here in one weekend, by putting it out to the universe, I was able to. So what else is possible? So it was that weekend I decided to come back home and put in my application to work in the following county as a substitute teacher to pick myself up and try again. So it was shortly after that I started subbing at this particular middle school. Sorry, folks, I had to black out the name because of confidential purposes, but I started subbing here. This was a Title I school. It's a failing school. They failed 4 years in a row. They couldn't keep the teachers there. And because of the fact that I was a special education math teacher, they didn't have a special education math teacher, and their students desperately needed it. So I went in. The children fell in love with me instantly, and I thought, okay, I'll work full-time again. I'll teach at your school. By the way, it was the last year that they were there, and I figured, you know what, as long as they had a stable teacher, because they haven't had one in 2 years, at least I can help these kids throughout this school year, make it a better school year. So what I did when I came into the classroom was I put, how does this get any better than this, on my classroom door. So that was the first thing and the last thing they seen when they entered my classroom. How does it get any easier than this was on one side of my marker board. What else was possible was on the other side of my marker board. And above my marker board, I put everything is the opposite of what it appears to be and nothing is the opposite of what it appears to be. And the reason why I did this was because the kids would try to do a fraction or try to do a math problem and it's too hard. How does it get any easier than this? Everything's the opposite of what it appears to be. Nothing is the opposite of what it appears to be. And anybody and everybody that knows that when you have tweens and early teenagers, you have trauma and drama. And these kids came from a lot of bad homes, a lot of bad situations. There was a lot of drug abuse in the area. So I taught them interesting point of view. I have this point of view. So whenever they would come in, Miss, he said, she said, oh my goodness, blah, 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 blah. I taught them, okay, interesting point of view. I have this point of view. How does it get better than this? How does it get easier than this? And this was my mantra the whole entire time I taught there at that school. Instead of doing the full Access Consciousness clearing statement, right, wrong, good, bad, pod, poc, all nine shorts, boys and beyonds, I just used the pod and poc for short. That way they couldn't get in their own way. At the same time, I was playing this Money as an Excuse clearing loop by Corey Michelle. Now remind you, she's known as the Unicorn Trainer. She prides herself as calling herself the Unicorn Trainer. So this has an interesting thing as I get ready to explain it. Anyhow, I had this playing as a clearing loop in my back pocket. And me and the aides soon started noticing as I was playing this, now remind you, this is the ghetto, this is the hood. All of a sudden, the students came in wearing unicorn shirts, downloading it on their phones, and calling themselves unicorn trainers. And the interesting thing is, whenever I would play these loops, their behaviors would go down almost 70%. Whenever the clearing loops would stop playing, my aide would be in the back of the classroom going, hey, did that thing stop playing? And I would look at my phone and it would be off. I would push play again. The kids would go back to work again. I think it's phenomenal, an important fact to bring up, because in Dain's book, he talks about the monkeys on the island and they would all eat the dirty fruit. And then one day, one monkey thought, okay, I'm going to pick up the fruit and wash it. And simultaneously, they all did it on all the islands. This would be a classic example of how that happened. I never mentioned unicorns. I never talked about unicorns. These kids would never go into school wearing unicorns. Here I have a boy wearing a spirit animal being a unicorn, and girls downloading it as a screensaver on their cell phones. I was excited. I explained it to the crazy possible experiment, told everybody what had happened, how their collective energies had helped me. And the next thing I knew, I ended up winning week 15 of Creating Crazy Possible 101. Now I got really excited about it because I'm like, oh wow, not only am I going to be able to help myself, but I can be able to teach the kids these processes in the classroom. How does it get better than that? So from December all the way through April, the kids practiced on doing their state testing, practiced on learning new concepts, getting them up to grade level. And here is where the interesting information comes in. You see, I got the school learning gains at the end of the year. Now the state is identified as these lighter colors. The school is identified as the red. I taught the lower 25% in the math. If you notice here, my kids made a 52% learning gain in math, whereas the rest of the state only did 40%, compared to the regular ed kids that were at that school that only made a 34% learning gain, but yet the rest of the state made 52%. My kids performed as well as the rest of the state. Some of these schools in higher performing areas. My kids did that. What's also amazing is these same kids who are the lower 25% in math also were the lower 25% in language arts. And if you notice, it bled through in their language arts classes. Yeah, they didn't do the 52%, and the rest of the state did 52% in language arts, but our kids did 46%. That is phenomenal change. That is amazing, and that is worth making note of. So eventually at the end of the year, the school has eventually been repurposed and used for a special education center, and they're revamping how everything is going on. I've since then stepped out of the classroom, took my retirement, and I'm using it now to go into Access classes, because my biggest dream or my biggest ambition right now is to continue taking Access courses to obtain my certified facilitator certification, so that I can one day facilitate the Being You, Changing the World book, so that I can help others find the door that opens the same way I found that door. Thank you so much, Dr. Heer, Gary Douglas, Corey Michelle. You guys changed a lot of people. How does it get any better than that? Thank you.